The ideas that gave birth to our nation are the ideas that our nation is resistant to right now, and we should talk about that all the time.
In a world where narratives are shaped by corporations and gatekeepers, independent voices matter more than ever. Badlands Media brings together citizen journalists, researchers, and independent thinkers.
The truth is triggering.
Question the narrative. Explore the facts.
It's authenticity, courage, resilience.
Search for the truth others won't.
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm going to say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like with the cat with the laser pointer, it's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like over-capitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well-organized and well-funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. Back at it again, fresh off of GART 11 in Nashville, joined by the one and only Ghost of Bass, Patrick Henry. Gordon, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. Having some camera issues, I guess. But yeah, man, I'm good. Glad to see you. Had fun with Zach yesterday. So, yeah.
Yeah, y'all did a great job. Thank you so much for covering as the wife and I were traveling back from Nashville.
I will say this. I really, the more I have to do cover these without you, I appreciate how smooth you are with this show, because like going from story to story, reading through the stories, you do a ton of prep work and maybe it's just natural for you. But I appreciate what you bring to the table here.
Well, thank you. By now, it's kind of like I wake up and I know the routine, right? I've got my 4 or 5 sources that I go to start the day. The problem is like I get into a story like today where I start going off on a deep dive of my own, and I'm like, okay, I got to put this off until after daily, and maybe we'll rehash it tomorrow. But yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. It's great to see everybody. It's great to be back. Yesterday, as we're traveling, I was listening to you guys. You guys did a great job, you and Zach. And I just want to say it was awesome hanging out with everybody. And I know you guys talked about GART and everything and how awesome it was. Again, every single GART is just, it gets better and better and better. And in 10 weeks, we'll be off to Deadwood for round 2. And of course, we always get our people that are like, oh, Thursday there was no daily, and then Friday was kind of a condensed daily, and we're getting the scraps and that kind of stuff. And it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. The amount of engagement and awakening that comes from the GART events, people in similar communities getting connected. A majority of the people there were from, from Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, all people within a few hours drive of each other. And it's great for them to be able to network in person and meet people like that. And then, of course, hang out and have a good time.
Yeah, there were at least 3 people that I can think of, and there may have been more. One was recurring, like somebody who had been to GART before. at least one of them was, who brought their spouse, and their spouse like had never listened to Badlands before. This was like they were coming in cold, and by the end of the weekend, they seemed like they had bought in, yeah, so like they appreciated the sense of community, I think, on top of all the conversation and content. So the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. And PJ says, I'm pissed there was no week in review show on your channel on Saturday. Yeah, that was definitely not happening, unfortunately. But I will be back this Saturday. So there you go. Also, I'm going to be doing an interview tomorrow night with John Frankman, I believe is his name, Green Beret, part of the COVID jab thing. And he's running to replace Matt Gaetz's seat in Florida's 1st District. And that's going to be a great interview. I'm looking forward to that tomorrow evening. Before we get into our sponsors and everything, I want to give a crazy hat tip here to Artsy Joan, who painted this and sent it to me. This is my lily pad painting of my boys Tango and Johnny, and she made that painting for us.
That's an incredible painting.
And yeah, just so much love to Artsy Joan. We have an incredibly talented group here at Badlands. So thank you to Artsy.
Very well done. And it's in the subject matter is dogs. So that's always based.
Yes, 100%. All right. So, and there's Huck Fillery. There's your 100%. All right, guys. April is CBD Awareness Month, and CB Distillery is celebrating with one of the biggest sales of the entire year. For a limited time, you can save up to 60% on everything when you use promo code Rumble. This is their deepest discount, so it's the perfect time to stock up or finally give CBD a try. Whether you're looking for better sleep, less stress, mood and focus support, or relief after your workouts, CB Distillery has clean, plant-based solutions for you. And this is premium quality CBD, nothing artificial, no fillers, just clean, plant-based solutions that work. You guys all know me. I'm huge on CBD. I'll tell you a real quick story when we finish with this, but CBD played a vital role in us for us this weekend. With over 2 million happy customers, CB Distillery is a source of trust. So if you've been tossing and turning at night and would enjoy a little more calm, or you just want a more natural way to support your body, now is the time to try CBD from CB Distillery. Don't miss CB Distillery's biggest sale of the year. Save up to 60% site-wide with promo code Rumble. Head on over to cbdistillery.com and enter code Rumble. That's cbdistillery.com, promo code Rumble. Specific product availability depends on individual and state regulations. All right. So yeah, so this weekend at GART, I'm the cannabis conservative, right? And somebody I know took an edible and didn't realize how strong it was. And I was like, you want some CBD? Because CBD has the retro effect to it. So you take, if you ever consume too much THC, you take a little CBD and it mellows it out.
I didn't know that.
One of the coolest things about cannabis, man, is you can balance it out. So unlike alcohol, like no matter how much bread you eat or water you drink or food you consume, you're never going to have less alcohol in your bloodstream. However, cannabis is different. So there it is.
Interesting.
All right, let's jump into the news and the breaking news for today. I know you guys talked about this yesterday, and we're going to rehash this quite a bit because I think this is a very big topic, and it's the Eric Swalwell thing. And it's not just Swalwell. You'll see why I believe this is such a big topic, but Eric Swalwell put this out. I am deeply sorry to my family, staff, and constituents for mistakes and judgment I've made in my past. I will fight the serious false allegations made against me. However, I must take responsibility and ownership for the mistakes that I did make. I'm aware of efforts to bring an immediate expulsion vote against me and other members. Expelling anyone in Congress without due process within days of an allegation being made is wrong. But it's also wrong for my constituents to have me distracted from my duties. Therefore, I plan to resign my seat in Congress. I will work with my staff in the coming days to ensure they are able, in my absence, to serve the needs of the good people of the 14th Congressional District. What does that mean, that my staff is going to serve the good people of the 14th District? Does that mean like when Swalwell's gone, like his seat is still going to be essentially filled, but by his staff? And like that was just kind of weird. But yeah, go ahead.
No. I mean, I'm glad that you brought this subject back up, because yesterday we really focused more on the salacious aspect of this. made a lot of jokes. But later in the day, I saw things that made me realize that there's a lot more to this than just the sex scandal stuff. There's which was, by the way, way worse than I originally realized. I didn't realize that this guy was like allegedly a serial rapist. But it also appears that he may have been like stealing intelligence, like leaking intelligence. Those some of the things that I'm seeing. But obviously all of that needs to be verified. But you got to wonder how much are they trying to cover up that side of the story with the sex scandal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. And, the Fang thing coming out again. I heard you guys discuss this yesterday that, she may have seen him as vulnerable because of these allegations that had been floating around for quite some time, and claims, as such. But I want to go back just briefly. I want to go back to him resigning and saying it's because, there's an ethics investigation or excuse me, expulsion letter out there. And the expulsion letter would take away a lot of my focus on what's going on. That's not why he did it. At least in my opinion, that is not why he did it. The reason why he did it is right here. The House of Representatives was opening an ethics investigation regarding Eric Swalwell. Now that he resigns, he's no longer subject to that investigation. They can't get into that. And, again, I want to touch on this a little bit later in this segment, but there's new allegations, new concerns that are arising now. And to start this off, let's go out to Fox News had Una Panuna Banca on. And so let's go ahead and
of course.
Let's just, right. I know. Let's get it out of the way. Way. All right. So Representative Anna Paulina Luna was on Fox News, and she had this to say.
Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna is on the Oversight Committee, and she joins us now. All right, Congressman, what was Swalwell like in Congress? Did he have a rep?
Yeah, he did have a reputation. And as you know, Jesse, I was actually the member of Congress that wrote the expulsion resolution for him. And I was ready to call it up and did tell him that if he did not resign by tomorrow, that it would be filed. He did have the votes to expel him from Congress. So what I will say is that many people on the Hill knew about this. Many reporters have come forward, even in talking to me, saying that they had heard stories about this. But I do think that he has serious criminal problems on his hand. And I do think that he might end up in jail, Jesse. And if I could just share with you for a moment, not only did I receive forensic reporting showing that, that infamous video of him in the hotel room was indeed him. It was not AI generated. But I'm also being told that more stuff is going to be dropping in the next 24 hours. And then also potentially the individual that recorded that video in that hotel room, Jesse, was a female and she was underage.
Oh,
all right. So, and let me just check with the chat real quick, because I saw Heather Jones says that she can't hear it, but
the volume was a little low on my end, which is not typical. Typically, like I can hear it fine, and then people in the chat says that the volume is low for them, but the volume on that time was a little low. I heard everything she said.
That's a mixing problem with StreamYard. That's not something we can control.
Exactly.
So there you go. So she says, for those who couldn't hear, she said, I filed the expulsion, or I was filing the expulsion report and told Swalwell, you need to resign. If you don't resign, I'm going to file this. But then goes on to saying that there's more that's going to come out. There's more witnesses that are going to come out, more accusations. But more importantly, that the person allegedly, the person that was filming that video of him on the, with the sex worker, is underage. And, again, that's going to be a concerning thing. And we'll get more into that, because she also, Anna Paulina Luna, put this out. I'm being told there will be more disgusting stuff coming out on Swalwell in the next 24 hours. For the members of Congress who are concerned about optics on expelling Swalwell, I think after the information drops, you will be thinking otherwise. Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about who is filming the video of the female sex worker? Again, and that's alluding to them being underage. However, the big concern coming out is who this person was. And I'm sure you guys, I don't remember if you guys covered this or not.
No, we didn't do any like analysis of the video. We just kind of did a more high level take, like kind of a more of a knee jerk take, because it was a fairly fresh story at that point.
Well, so the accusations coming out, and again, these are unfounded so far, But the accusations are, this video took place allegedly in I think it was late 2019, early 2020. They're saying that this video, was filmed. This is in the middle of, Eric Swalwell's quote unquote presidential campaign. And, I just want to remind you guys, you go back here to the Hill, Ruben Gallego was tapped as the national campaign chairman for Eric Swalwell's presidential bid. And this was in April of 2019. So, how close were the two? Well, if you read the article, Swalwell says that he and I have traveled the country together seeking to make college affordable for the next generation. As two young dads, we babysit for each other's kids and share ideas on how to make childcare and healthcare more affordable. So the two are going out on a college tour to talk about, are we seeing the problem here?
Yeah.
Okay. It goes on to say, quote,
I'm smoking what you're growing. As the saying goes.
He says, quote, I got to know Eric as we visited the millennials in various cities as part of the Future Forum, the group Eric founded in the House. And I immediately saw that he gets what America is all about. Gallego also at the time was serving as the senior whip for the Democratic caucus. It says here at the bottom of the article, now this is a 2019 article, that Gallego recently said he would not seek the Senate seat of Martha McSally, which, as we all know, he ended up winning the Senate seat. He who did he replace? Not Sinema. Did he replace McSally? I think he did.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
Or did he replace Sinema? I think he replaced Sinema in 2022.
That sounds
against
right.
Carrie Lake. Against Carrie Lake.
Yeah, against Carrie Lake. That sounds right. Yep.
So Gallego has, granted, the only thing we have is that let me go back to it, is that sideburn shot right here. Let me go back to it right there. Is that sideburn shot, whether or not, look, those are a pretty unique looking pair of Nike sneakers there. Does anybody have any pictures of him in those Nike sneakers circa 2019, 2020?
So is the allegation here that that's Gallego we're looking at, or is it that Gallego was filming?
No, that's Gallego we're looking at, and the person filming APL is saying that it's an underaged female.
Yeah. No, I'm tracking that. I recall yesterday during our discussion that Zach said that the person who filmed it, and we didn't really flush out this part of the conversation, but the person filming it was one of Swalwell's friends, like his buddies, which, makes sense. He's in the room with him right there. But it also raises questions like, okay, so you're in here you're committing adultery, like regardless of whether or not they're underage. That's a much bigger issue, but a separate issue. But why is your friend like filming it like this? And like, does Swalwell realize he's being filmed? And then that kind of introduces, the more I thought about it later, like, blackmail. It's like, why else would you film somebody doing that and that, like, of his stature, unless your plan was to use it later against him to leverage him? And so the question becomes, all right, well, then who filmed it? Like, who filmed it? Does Swalwell know he was being filmed? Probably not. And how often does this happen? There's probably, there are stories. The allegation is that this happens all the time with congressmen. And that's concerning.
Yeah, that's the big problem. So let's jump into this clip here from C-SPAN with Nancy Pelosi saying, I had no idea. Nobody had any idea about Swalwell's sexual deviancies.
Some Republicans and others are saying that Democrats turned kind of a blind eye, that they knew what he was up to.
No, that's not true. That is absolutely positive. It's true that they may say that, but it is absolutely not true.
You had no idea?
None whatsoever. None whatsoever. I had none whatsoever.
What happens in California now? He was in many of the polls, the leading candidate.
Yes, he was.
That's gone. There's an army of candidates out there. And California has this quirky law, because it's ranked primaries, right? Where you could end up with 2 Republicans on the ballot.
Well, it is.
How does that?
I agree that it is a quirky law. I do not agree that there'll be 2 Republicans at the top.
Okay, so, and to be totally fair to Nancy Pelosi, although I don't believe her for a split second, but to be totally fair, a lot of these, congressmen and women, they have this evil facade, like this evil, like, outward expression that we all associate with them. Swalwell, Schiff, Pelosi, all these people, we think they're genuinely evil. And yes, they are genuinely evil, in my opinion. However, Their staffers are 10 times worse.
Yeah,
and
I
a
think
lot
so
of
too.
times their staffers are the ones that know these kinds of things, and they keep they'll keep the the leader, the congressional representative, they'll keep them out of the loop just for that plausible deniability, so that Pelosi can go on C-SPAN and say that and genuinely not know. Again, I would think that Pelosi, as kind of the Duchess of California, so to speak, like she runs all the politics in California. There's no way that she didn't know this. There's no way.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. Like the plausible deniability thing, that goes back to Bay of Pigs. That is why the CIA, the official story is that's why JFK was kept out of the loop by the CIA, was so that he could maintain, from their perspective, plausible deniability. He could go out there and actually say, "I knew nothing about this. I wasn't in the room." He wanted to be in the room, but the CIA was being very subversive, and of course, the whole thing was a setup to make JFK look like a look bad. And that's why one of the reasons JFK turned against the CIA. Now, again, I agree with you that with what you just said, but my knee-jerk reaction, like taking in all this new data and thinking about it for the past 24 hours, my knee-jerk reaction, kind of like on October 7th, like October 8th, my knee-jerk was, okay, we need to understand how this was allowed to happen and whether a stand-down order was given and to what extent was the Israeli government involved in that. Like, what foreknowledge did they have of it? How much did they allow this thing to happen? Here, I think where I go to immediately, like before we get too deep in the weeds, who filmed it? Why did they film it? Because potentially this was a blackmail setup. Like this was done as a blackmail in order to blackmail Swalwell. Like that's why it's done. Again, that does not exonerate Swalwell of anything, but it speaks to a larger conspiracy for how Washington works and how our government is run. Because to your point, think about how politics works. When even a guy like Donald Trump, who's one of the most well-connected people in the world, even when he comes into office, there are always people who descend on him and are like, all right, here's the person you should appoint. Here's the person you should appoint. Here's the person you should appoint. That's probably how it happens at every level, like in Congress. Like a new congressman comes in and all the old staffers are brought in. They're like, all right, here's the people who are going to help you with the lay of the land. They know everybody. So the staffers actually probably stick around far longer than the television characters. And especially the insidious ones who are willing to do the really, really sketchy stuff, the underhanded, dirty work. And those are probably like the operators that really keep the swamp pumping.
So you kind of got ahead of me a little bit, which is perfectly fine because the points you made are exactly right. And one of the things, if there was one thing that I said this weekend at GART that should stick in everybody's mind, I was talking about President Trump and the term limits, right? And whether or not 2 consecutive term limits, whether he should be afforded 2 consecutive term limits, or if 2 split terms of 8 years is fine, and all that stuff. And one of the things I said is you have bureaucrats and handlers and staffers and everybody else that's in DC that has a limitless timeline on how long they're allowed to be there. And we'll get into this a lot more as the show goes on. But it is almost impossible to effectuate any sort of change in the system if you are, extremely limited as to how long you're allowed to participate in that system. And this is coming strictly from the executive, where they have more control over the bureaucracy. Congress doesn't have as much control. I mean, obviously they have the power of the purse, so they don't have as much control over the hiring and firing in the bureaucracy, although they can, it seems, stall it out and, advice and consent and prolong the process to get these people installed. But the executive is the one that really has the authority over the hiring and firing throughout all of the agencies and all of the bureaucrats. And that is the problem in DC, is the swamp is literally rooted so deep into DC that you can't cut those roots out in just 8 years back to back. Nonetheless, 4 off and then 4 back on. So keep that in mind. We're going to talk a lot more about the corruption, but to Pelosi's point, which he said right there, ABC 7 Eyewitness News, rumors of Swalwell's alleged behavior swirled around Washington for years, according to Kevin McCarthy. Ironic. Criticism of Swalwell has circulated in Washington for years, according to former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Quote, every member in Congress knows not to let any young staffer around Swalwell or Matt Gaetz. It's not a secret here, McCarthy said. Interesting he's taking a shot at Matt Gaetz because Matt Gaetz ultimately was the man that destroyed his career with that 15-vote House Speaker in January of 2022 or 2023. Gaetz ruined Kevin McCarthy. So, I take the accusation levied against Gaetz with a grain of salt. I mean, he was a single guy. Swalwell was not. Gaetz was a single guy, probably had some fun, but, he's single, whatever. Former San Francisco, this is so rich that they invoked this name in this article. Former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown said that
Willie Brown
said the allegations were not unexpected, citing long-standing talks among Democrat leaders. Quote, "No, I'm not surprised, frankly, because there have been rumor after rumor after rumor." His colleagues in Washington pretty much said that. That's what Adam Schiff said. That's what Nancy Pelosi said. Brown said. So now you've got former San Francisco mayor. Remember, Pelosi's the Duchess of California. Former San Francisco Willie Brown, the side piece for Kamala Harris back in the heyday, saying that Nancy Pelosi knew about this. But Pelosi saying, no, I had no idea. This all blindsided me. I tend to believe Willie Brown in this situation. Reading on, it says Daniel Schnurr, who teaches political communications at Berkeley and USC, said the two immediate beneficiaries of Swalwell's decision are Katie Porter and Tom Steyer. Steyer has drawn criticism for his wealth and investment history. Porter's personal style has sparked complaints. Quote, "He's being attacked for making millions and millions of dollars for investing his money in ways that Democrats find to be absolutely unacceptable. Porter is being criticized for being unpleasant." And then Willie Brown jumps back in and says, quote, "Money is beginning to mean something in political races." What? Money has meant something in political races.
That's the stupidest take of all time. That's the worst take of all time.
Since Citizens United, when we ruled that corporations are essentially people and money is free speech. Money is beginning to mean something in political races, and when you can't raise it, you may be at a terrible disadvantage, Brown said. I think all these Democrats are now at a disadvantage because Tom Steyer has more money than sin. So, interesting article. Let's unpack that. Kevin McCarthy saying it's been kind of an unknown secret, a little-known secret, or a well-known secret, I should say, well-known secret, that Eric Swalwell has been participating in this for years, right? Willie Brown says Pelosi knew, Adam Schiff knew, all these people knew. I just want to go back and play this, and I saw somebody in the chat mention it, and I already had it queued up, and so this is fitting. But you remember this guy right here? Remember this guy? Madison
Cawthorn, yeah.
He got destroyed over this comment right here.
The sexual perversion that goes on in Washington. I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington, with the average age is probably 60 or 70. And I look at all these people, a lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys that, then all of a sudden you get invited to like, oh, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that, there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove, addiction in our country. And then you watch them do, a key bump of cocaine right in front of you. And it's like, wow, this is wild.
I mean, dude, the courage it took for him to say that. I mean, he had to understand. I'm sure he seems like a smart guy, unlike Eric Swalwell. He had to have known that, like, saying that out loud was going to have repercussions. So the courage to say that, tip my hat to him. And then, of course, Kevin McCarthy mobilized along with Mitch McConnell to destroy him immediately. Which is why I was like, all right, well, we should actually probably get rid of Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell and keep Madison Cawthorn. But that would suggest that our Congress is legitimate, and it most certainly is not.
Amen. I'm with you. Madison Cawthorn, I've said it since then, that is the well-known, that is the untold secret of DC. Like, everybody knows it. Everybody knows what goes on in DC. The problem is I don't think we know how much it's, guys batting for the same team versus, I don't know so much about women, but you always hear like Kevin McCarthy's been accused of it many, many times. Lindsey Graham has been accused of it many, many times. So many of these politicians are actually accused of saying one thing to their constituents, oh, strong nuclear family, husband and wife, kids, all that stuff. And then they're turning around and blowing dudes on the side. You know, it's wild that all of this has gone unnoticed for so long. And perhaps now it's Swalwell that brings all this, you know, out front and center. And we'll get more to it, but I want to play the next video because this video came out, you know, after the fact. This was back in 2022, and this is Eric Swalwell on a mega yacht that cost about $680,000 a week to rent, and that doesn't include
how much?
680,000, 50,000.
Wow.
In the winter. So it's probably, it may be a little more in the summer. I don't know, but this is a video that has emerged from this trip.
I mean, pause it. Go back. Okay, so when I was making fun of Eric Swalwell yesterday, just hit play again and pause it on his face. This is what I was talking about. I mean, look at that expression. Like, this guy, he's missing something. There's something missing there.
He's drunk as a skunk.
Yeah, but it's more than that. I'm teasing right now. I'm having fun, but hit play. I'm sorry.
No, I'm with you.
Make a wish Swalwell. I mean, this guy's missing a chromosome or two. I'm just saying. Count his toes. Count his toes. We need a head count on his toes.
I was on the airplane when I heard Make a Wish Swalwell, and I literally was laughing out loud, and the people thought I was crazy. Okay, but so just let me go back to this picture right here. Background on this, it's alleged that there was one woman that was in her late teens, so probably like 18, 19, hopefully not 17, but that was actually intimately involved, like in a relationship with one of the people that put this party on. All the rest of the women were Americans and Brits in their early 20s who, you know, this is a cruise through the French Riviera. Swalwell flew from California or Vegas out to the French Riviera, got on board, was on board the whole, you know, week allegedly, and that the women were kind of cycled in and out. And they all knew that there was a confidentiality. Now, whether they signed NDAs and all that stuff, I don't know, but there was a confidentiality agreement that Swalwell was actually on the boat here. These women, look, I'm just going to be brutally honest right here. They know that when they go to a trip like this, they're expected. There's certain things that are expected of them. It is human trafficking. It is sex trafficking. Okay.
Yeah.
So whether or not they're actually known sex workers, you know, whether they're on the books as sex workers, whatever the case might be, there is a presumption in going here. And if you do not fulfill that presumption, you get cycled out. You get moved on, and we'll bring in the next girls and hope that they will do it. Or drugs, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, all the stuff we found from the Epstein files, from the Diddy files, from all the stuff that we've seen. This is one of those events. Or, okay, I can't say definitively. This appears to be one of those types of events.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Throwing petals like, do you love me or not? Head is spinning and it don't know when to stop. You said forever, babe, did you mean it or not? Hold on, hold on. Leave me on red, baby, but I still get the message. Instead of a line, it's 3 dots, but I can connect them. And if it ain't right, babe, you know I respect it. If you need time, just take your time, honey, I get it. Way you got me all in my head.
Is that somebody crawling on the floor?
Yes, this is a guy. His name's Nick Ritchie. We'll get into him in a second here.
Okay.
Think I'd rather you in my bed. Whatever it is, you know I can take it. I'm counting the days, how many days till I can see you again.
So that's allegedly that's Nick Ritchie.
This is like we catch him at night.
This is his account. I see the name at the top.
With arrows, babe.
And that's Swalwell getting the boombox JBL speaker that he left in front of his door with a phone there, apparently, to record him coming out.
Yeah, the upper left corner, it says say in Richie. So it looks like this is like his TikTok account or Instagram or something. Yeah.
Shooting my shot. If I could get in, drop me a pin, hop in
So to your point, before we get into the details, yeah, like I would completely agree with your analysis just now. And you could imagine, like you said, there was what, $680,000 to rent this thing for what, a weekend, a week, whatever it is, even if it's 2 weeks, plus all the money that you're spending, bringing people in, taking people out, going out when they're when they're going to port. I mean, it could be you could be looking at millions of dollars, right? That's my point.
Yes.
So you could imagine that the whole thing, like when they're panning across and there seems to be dozens and dozens and dozens of people on the boat, when they're having these parties, every single person there potentially could understand, minus maybe like the girls they're bringing in, the random people who are coming in for one night, could understand what they're doing. Maybe not, right? Maybe it's just one or two people who understand it, but funding that whole thing, that entire thing could just be one big facade for the sole purpose of cultivating blackmail on Eric Swalwell. And the value of that, I mean, what is the value of owning a congressman, right? Especially someone that has been elevated to high positions, right? I mean, he was on the intelligence committee, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So, I mean, would you invest millions of dollars to own a congressman? Well, they do it all the time, right? They invest in the campaigns. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities that trips like this, millions of dollars are spent so that the target, Swalwell, who again seems like an idiot, so he would fall for something like this. The whole thing is presented to him and he's like, oh, I'm in a safe space. I'm surrounded by all these people. We're all having a good time, not realizing that the entire thing has been facilitated for the sole purpose of getting him comfortable enough to, to engage in degeneracy on film.
Exactly. And, just real quick, Tattoo Teacher in the chat says, consider that these women are willing participants and what they are doing is not illegal unless criminality is occurring. Correct. And that's why I said, as long as they're over 18, these are women acting on their own. This is their own willingness, their own fruition to do this type of thing. Now, I did say unless they were drugged or something along those lines, but, again, those are accusations that would have to be made and they have not been made yet. So this is all on the up and up in terms of legality. Now, in terms of morality, ethics, and all that stuff, this is where what Ghost was saying comes into play here, because Eric Swalwell was in fact married at this time. I believe he was still married at this time. And if you're married, now at that point, you have that blackmail bargaining chip. And I put this out on X this morning. I said, Congress protect somebody, John Sexton in a post here said, I realize you're trying to take a victory lap, but why couldn't anyone investigate the story before last week? Apparently, lots of people knew for years. Echoes of Joe Biden coverage all over again. And I said, because Congress protects their own, and it's not out of love for one another or some concern for victims or preserving the institution. It's because so many of them are weak human beings that feel they're invincible. And for that temptation and for the temptation that's thrust upon them. Yes, this is temptation that is thrown at them. This is not like Swalwell goes out necessarily looking for this. He gets an invite and they say, hey, we're going out on my yacht. You want to come out there? He gets out there and boom, blackmail. You put the temptation in front of their face, and most of these people are extremely weak, and they believe that they are invincible. Okay, they are despicable, feckless humans and given to sins of the flesh, only to have those sins dangled over their heads in exchange for votes. Those who take the bait are forever captured. It's the number one currency, even above the dollar and Bitcoin in DC and in politics, maybe perhaps the world, and that's blackmail. Self-preservation at the expense of our nation. And last month, they voted to keep these secrets all bundled up and obfuscated from the people. And that gets me to the point of this whole freaking segment. And I go back to this story. We covered it last month. House kills effort to release all congressional sexual misconduct and harassment reports. And in doing so, this was an amendment, a resolution that was introduced by Nancy Mace. In a joint statement, Republican and Democratic leaders of the committee argued that, quote, it could chill victim cooperation and witness participation in ongoing and future investigations, end quote, and would make it harder for the committee, quote, to investigate and eliminate sexual misconduct in the House. Quote, here and elsewhere, perpetrators of sexual misconduct should never be shielded from responsibility for their misdeeds, says Chairman Michael Guest. But they added that, quote, Victims may be re-traumatized by public disclosures of interim work product, excerpts of interview transcripts, and certain exhibits, and witnesses who often only speak to the committee confidentially or on condition of future anonymity could fear retaliation if their cooperation is made public. So where the fuck have they been on Eric Swalwell? If this has been going on for years and years and years, and you're doing all of this to protect the victims and everything else, Swalwell is accused of legit rape, not just sexual harassment, not sexual misconduct, not having an affair with his wife, but legitimate drugging staffers, and not just in his own staff, but of actual rape. And so when Congress is protecting their own, they're keeping that blackmail bundled up until they absolutely need to use it, or until, in my opinion, what happened here is with Kash Patel teasing the Fang Fang release, they knew that when the Fang Fang documents come out, Swalwell's cooked. And so they got out in front of it and they threw Swalwell on the sword. They threw him on the tracks and let him get run over in order. And they looked at it as, well, it's got two benefits to it. First, we're going to protect ourselves from the Fang Fang release. We're going to protect Swalwell from a congressional ethics investigation. And we're going to free up the Democrat primary, the jungle primary in California, so that's not two Republicans on the ticket and we get either Katie Porter or Tom Steyer thrown into the mix there.
Yeah. These are all good questions. And again, it's like, I mean, we are engaging in some speculation here, but there's a lot of smoke. And it's coming from different directions. And of course, there's been open speculation, not just open speculation, but deeper rumors for years that that this stuff is happening all the time. And then we also know that the founder of the FBI, Hoover, was known, like, very famous for doing this, for hosting sex parties, orgies, in order to film powerful people in compromising positions and then leverage that against them. And that's like how the FBI operated for the first several decades that it existed. So, this is not anything new. This has been happening for the past century.
Yeah, and they continue to vote over and over again to, withhold any accountability from the people. Our elected officials saying, well, any investigation into us, and these are payments. A lot of these are payments that are made to women to keep them quiet. And we have no idea that any of this is going on. I mean, we do have an idea, but we have no way. I mean, Congress is not subject to FOIA, so we can't do freedom of information requests to get anything on Congress because it doesn't apply to them. It only applies to the executive branch. And so we have no way to hold these people accountable. Our elections are fake and gay. We all know that. But, the more and more comes out, the more and more, these stories get front and center, the more and more we see through this. And eventually it'll get to a point where we say, enough is enough. Like, we're going to fucking end this. We are going to stop this.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say, and I think it's really important because I think people get really hung up on, like, when are we going to get disclosure? When are we going to get, like, the truth? When are we going to get? If you're waiting for Congress to do an investigation and deliver you a report on their own sexual degeneracy and their blackmail and their treason, you will you're gonna be waiting for the rest of the time. I guess that's probably never going to happen. And even if it did happen, would I believe whatever they put out? No, I wouldn't. Because it's like, oh, report on yourself, right? We, the people, need to go do these investigations, provide good sourcing, provide good proof and evidence, and bring that to the table. And then collectively, we determine what to do about it.
So let's jump into, just briefly here, that Rick Ritchie guy. He is the CEO of the Warrior Network Agency. The NWNA is a premier talent and brand PR firm. Our mission is to empower, inspire, and revolutionize the world of media and branding for our clients. And the most recent post that they have up there, Nick Ritchie quietly built one of America's most influential public relations firms. Quote, traditional PR firms still think that a Wall Street mention is the be-all, end-all, Ritchie says. I respect that, but in today's world, a viral TikTok can move markets faster than a press clipping. We build our campaigns with that reality in mind. Ritchie first rose to prominence in the late 2000s with TheDirty.com, a user-generated gossip platform that gained notoriety for its anonymous submissions about celebrities and everyday people alike. I mean, come on, dude.
Wow.
Like, if I were a politician, okay, I would never involve myself with a guy who made his living off of TMZ style gossip column bullshit. And I would never in a million years go on a $500,000 yacht charter with him with 21-year-old women being brought in and out with an abundance of drugs, alcohol, and everything else. How stupid can you be? This is a person that was on the House Permanent Selecting Committee, the chairman of the HSPCI, dealing with some of the most complex intelligence that, we have in our government. Not only was he banging a Chinese spy, but he's going out on these alcohol-fueled excursions in the French Riviera with a guy whose whole career is built around gossip and public relations.
Well, it's not just gossip, public relations, and TMZ. It's like, as you just said, a website called The Dirty. It's trading in secrets, which, like, I mean, think like Game of Thrones, like Littlefinger. I mean, information is the real currency of DC, right? Knowing people's secrets, like, that's how you leverage people. It's not really money. I mean, everyone there, like, there's enough money flying around for everybody up there. So it's really more about information than it is wealth. And, it begs the question, and, the chicken or the egg. Does the person get into office and then become corrupt, or is the corrupt person in office elevated to the intelligence committee, elevated to the places where they can then effectuate change or, become gatekeepers? And therefore, like, all the people in the powerful positions are compromised before they get there.
Yep. And they voted over and over again, Ghost, to keep their secrets to themselves. Nobody can have an eyeball in. I just want to play this clip real quick, about 10 seconds of Brian Stelter right here saying something actually intelligent.
Yes, dramatic end of the weekend news in California, and a real testament to the power of investigative reporting.
A real testament to the power of investigative reporting.
Yeah.
I mean, he's right. He's right.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for investigative reporting, none of this ever surfaces. However, it's not like these reporters have been combing through congressional reports and ethic committee violation reports or any, investigations. No, this just happened to be somebody in DC saying, all right, it's time for Swalwell to go down. We got to get out in front of Fang. We got to get out in front of this California primary. Who are we going to throw under the bus? Well, the person that we have the most damning shit on is Eric Swalwell. So hate to see the guy. He was up and coming in the Democratic Party, but we got to maintain California. We got to save his ass from the FBI Fang investigation. Throw him under the bus. And so somebody in Congress calls up one of their friends at whatever outlet broke this story exclusive and says, hey, we've got this, we've got whistleblowers that will come out of victims that will claim that they were sexually abused and raped and harassed by Swalwell. That's how that works. That wasn't investigative journalism. That was Congress enacting a transaction using not dollars, not Bitcoin, not XRP, blackmail, using blackmail. They said, we've got this in our coffers. Now is the time to expend this. And they did so. And it's not journalism.
Yeah. And Anons have been investigating this for years. So like most of this is not really much of a surprise to the people who've been tracking this stuff for a while. It's like, maybe we're getting more specifics now, and that's fine. But yeah, this isn't like earth-shattering revelation kind of stuff. Yeah. And so, but now again, the shiny object here, I think we need to talk about this. The shiny object is the sex and the salacious stuff and potentially the pedophilia. And of course, if he's guilty of those things, then he should go down for it. But we can't allow them to sweep under the rug. What was he doing on the Intelligence Committee? What was he doing with his access? Now that it appears that he was most certainly compromised. That element of it needs to be investigated, not only investigated, but flushed out, because this would mean that he's part of a network. And on stage at GART this weekend, when we were talking about the justice panel, as I said, do not get focused on the individuals, on the television characters. We have to focus on the systems. The systems are what we have to go after, not the individuals, because what they're going to do is they're going to throw someone like Swalwell at us, and that scalp will give a lot of people some nice feelings, like, yes, we finally got one, right? But in terms of like taking down a bad guy, taking down a corrupt politician, But really what we want to take down is the network that put him in place in the first place. Because if you don't take down the network, there are 100 Swalwells right behind him, lined up, ready to be the next guy. And they know what they're signing up for in most cases. They know they're signing up for a life of absolute degeneracy and evil. But it's like the old biblical, sayings and scriptures. Like they're the wealth and the earthly pleasures are just too intoxicating and too tempting.
Yeah. One last thing before we move off of this topic. We do have, hold on one second. I'm having a hiccup here. All right. Sorry. Before we move on, we got another resignation. Tony Gonzalez, there's a reason for everything, and God has a plan for us all. When Congress returns tomorrow, I will file my retirement from office. It has been my privilege to serve the great people of Texas. How disgusting for you to invoke God as you're sitting here resigning over a sex scandal where you had an affair with a staffer, and that staffer, whether it was related to this or not, set herself on fire and killed herself. And you're invoking God as the plan for us all?
Whoa. I'm not familiar with this story.
Oh, you don't remember this story?
No.
Oh, dude. So last
year,
so
this is from the past. Okay.
Yeah, this was last year. Tony Gonzalez's staffer was at home, caught on fire. EMS showed up, extinguished the fire.
Yeah, okay. I think I vaguely remember this.
And then the next day she died. Then it came out, like everybody was speculating Gonzalez was having an affair with her and all this stuff. And then it came out, it got pretty scandalous, but it came out recently, like within, I think, the last couple months. Gonzalez finally admitted, yes, I was having an affair with her. And whether or not the suicide, the fire was related or not, we don't know. But again, going back to what I was saying about Congress being able to stop all of this from happening. I mean, how many other situations like this have come up where, staffers have either been kicked out of DC and they've lost their entire careers. They've gone as far as suicide. It's led to divorce, all sorts of things because of what these Congress members are able to get away with without any accountability whatsoever, because it's only they're only held accountable when they lose their political expediency, when they lose their viability in DC, when they're no longer towing the line, when they don't vote the right way. I mean, the whole fucking thing has to be exposed. And this is how it happens. We could talk about Epstein files all fucking day long. All day long we could talk about Epstein. And it's Congress that's screaming the loudest about Epstein. And it's Congress that is probably the most corrupt. And it is Congress that has the most effect day to day on our lives as a product of this corruption, as a product of blackmail, coercing certain votes and coercing the party into unity, because all of them have to toe the line or they'll get exposed. And not all of them. It's ridiculous to think that out of 435 members, every single one is effing around. But the ones that have the loudest voices, the ones that are put front and center for the parties, promise you there's something behind all of them.
Can we do another domestic story that I have that I think is directly related to this, that I think is going to be enlightening for the audience to see?
Sure.
Okay. If we can transition to this is, unless you have anything else on Swalwell.
No, I do not.
We can finish Swalwell first.
No, I'm done with Swalwell. So go ahead.
Okay. Let me share my screen. So first, let me establish the connection to this story with the actual story that broke yesterday. Okay, if you can put that up. Okay, so yesterday we have story break. UBS, this is a Swiss bank, and you'll recall that in 2023, Credit Suisse collapsed, and then the Swiss government forced UBS to acquire them because it was a too big to fail situation. So it says UBS accused of blocking probe into Nazi thefts from Holocaust victims. So UBS has been accused of withholding tens of thousands of records about former subsidiary Credit Suisse's shocking Nazi ties, including involving the forced transfer of assets owned by murdered Jews. Around 23,000 documents are still being redacted or withheld from a lawyer conducting an independent investigation into the Nazi-linked accounts at the now defunct Credit Suisse, according to new testimony submitted to Congress on Monday. The ombudsman, Neil Barofsky, I literally was talking about this guy. I told Zach to write this guy's name down. I didn't even know this was happening yesterday. I said, write this guy's name down. Borofsky said in a supplemental written testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee that he also has yet to see another 1 million pages under review by UBS lawyers for potentially privileged information. The delay of the probe has complicated a related $1.25 billion settlement with Holocaust victims. Borofsky, along with forensic research firm Alex Partners, has allegedly been blocked from probing 127 instances of possible looting of Jewish assets by Nazi-affiliated German bank clients. He and the research company have also have allegedly been prevented from pursuing credible leads into the Swiss bank's links to the SS and the rat lines that helped the Nazis flee to Latin America after World War II. So here's a picture of Adolf Hitler, and it says nearly 900 Credit Suisse accounts had potential ties to dictator Adolf Hitler's war efforts, the independent probe found so far. Quote, I'm concerned UBS's recent heavy-handed approach to this investigation may prevent important historical facts from coming to light, Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley said in a statement Monday. Quote, these new details call into question UBS's candor to the committee and its commitment to a thorough investigation. Okay, and then it goes into the history, but I can summarize that. So in 2020, two things happened. A bunch of powerful Jewish NGOs, I think it was the name escapes me, but a few powerful Jewish NGOs go to the Senate, specifically to Sheldon Whitehouse, and I think it was Chuck Grassley, and they say, hey, we're concerned that Credit Suisse has a bunch of Jewish assets hidden in like Nazi accounts. Please investigate. Simultaneously, I think the similar pressure was applied directly to Credit Suisse, or maybe Credit Suisse caught wind of this. So they go and they hire a private investigator internally to conduct their own internal, private understanding of, because they probably have huge records that go back a long time. I think the bank was formed in the 1850s, if I'm not mistaken. So that person they hired was Neil Borofsky. Okay, so then in 2022, Borofsky, he's been investigating this for a year and a half at that point. He goes to Credit Suisse and says, all right, I've stumbled onto a lot more than just the Nazi stuff. I need more files. This is much bigger than just the Nazi stuff. And they get very uncomfortable and they say, you know what? We don't like the direction this is going. They tell him to back down, and then he doesn't. They eventually fire him. And then suddenly this trove of documents hits a network of journalists who then review it for months and then put out a story in 2022, which exposes all this banking stuff. One of the things that I think came out as part of this was some of the Dan Gertler stuff connected to the DR Congo. I think that might have been connected to this tangentially. But what ends up happening is they fire Borofsky in 2022. Credit Suisse is collapsing. I think the reason it's collapsing is because the U.S. government had seized its assets. We do know that the U.S. government seized some of its assets, and I think the seizures were related to the Venezuela stuff from the Maduro lawsuit filed in 2018. So after Borofsky gets fired and Credit Suisse is then acquired by force, like the Swiss government says, UBS, that's their main competitor, you have to acquire Credit Suisse. This is early 2023. Chuck Grassley sends a letter to UBS and says, you need to rehire Borofsky and give him full access. Okay. So that's what they do. They give him full access. They say, yes, sir. They hire him, full access. And then Grassley says, we want that report. Like you now work for us as well, Borofsky. We want that report. Now, who is Neil Borofsky? Now, Neil Borofsky is the person who was appointed by the Senate in 2008 to investigate the TARP payments. Remember, Obama gave $3 trillion to the banks to bail them out, too big to fail. And he's the one who came back and testified publicly that the whole thing was a scam and that the taxpayers were being fleeced by the banks. So that was Borofsky who told us that after doing this. So if anybody understands the corruption of the banking system and how it operates, it's this guy, Neil Borofsky. He is the guy to investigate this. So now what's happening is UBS has spent the past few years suing, and they're trying to basically limit their exposure to the Credit Suisse stuff. Because we acquired Credit Suisse, but we were forced to do it. We shouldn't be liable for any of the stuff that they have in their closet, the skeletons in their closet. And this has come with mixed reviews. So here's like a Japanese investors. This is from December 4th. sue Switzerland over Credit Suisse's AT1 write-down. Law firm says so that's one example. Here is UBS. This is from last week. UBS loses bid to limit liability for Nazi-linked crimes. U.S. judge's ruling shows. So the U.S. judge is saying after the request, hey, we want to limit our liability here, and the judge says no, like a hypothetical lawsuit, because the whole thing was based on hypothetical lawsuits. He says, no, you're actually like you're on the line. You bought this thing, you own it now, and you're now on the line. That's why they're refusing. Here's the next article. That's why they're refusing to release this. Here's April 10th. UBS won't release Nazi accounts settlement files sought by investigator after court setback. Okay, so I've now laid out that entire narrative for you. So here's like the real kicker that I recently stumbled onto. Right here. So today I put it in today's brief. It's down at the very bottom. Right here. All right. So this is a book written by Gordon Thomas, who's like one of the best like investigative authors on Mossad. And this one's about Robert Maxwell. And so you'll see as it's highlighted right here, I'm not going to read the entire passage, but what it's outlining here is back in the 80s, when that Promise software, I was talking about this on stage during GART, when the Promise software was either stolen or it was given to Mossad from the Justice Department. This is the Prosecutor Management Information System. It stands for that's what Promise stands for. It's an AI that was developed at the end of the 70s to take all these different databases of like criminal investigations and create a matrix that could identify relationships so that people who were investigating the same targets could then collaborate and work together on it and understand who was being investigated for what. So when Mossad stole this, they had it deconstructed and then put back together so it looked like it was their own IP. And then they hired a third party to put a trap door in the back so that anybody who used the program, they would be able to see everything in their computer system. And
Can I pause you just for 1 second on this?
Yeah.
Have we talked about this before?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
Years ago.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
Was there a documentary? Because I can specifically remember, and I don't remember the context, but there was a documentary where a guy was talking about
the octopus murders. The octopus murders.
That's what it was.
Okay. So
there it is.
I recently went like a week or 2 weeks ago and watched the octopus murders because Zach and John have been telling me to. Okay. I now understand why they made the octopus murders on Netflix. The reason is they whitewashed the Mossad's involvement entirely. Mossad was the whole thing behind the octopus murders. They even put Ari bin Manash, a Mossad agent, on the documentary, and he's like mocking all the people involved. He was one of like the brain. It was like his brainchild. It was him and Rafi Eitan who like put the whole thing together. And so Robert Maxwell is their asset. And they basically recruit Maxwell. This is like 1984, to go around and sell this not only to foreign governments, but also to banks and to weapons manufacturers in the Soviet Union. And if you want to pull my screen back up, what it says right here is one of the first banks he goes to is a Swiss bank called Credit Suisse. They agree to install Promise. Now suddenly Mossad has full access to everything that Credit Suisse has done. And they realize that Credit Suisse is not only the money laundering apparatus for the mafia, all of the different criminal organizations around the world, but also the CIA. And there's a guy named, as I highlight right here, says the respected Credit Suisse was unwittingly being used by the CIA and mafia in their financial transactions, sometimes up to 300 million pounds. This is 1984 a day passed through the special Credit Suisse accounts set up by organized crime families. The mafia money came from the profits of drugs and prostitution. It says within days, Promise had enabled Rafi Eitan and Mossad to have the numbers of every mafia and CIA account. Many were held by Richard J. Brunecki, the CIA operative in overall charge of the agency's secret money laundering operations. He worked 16-hour days, moving covert funds in and out of Credit Suisse and sending them on complex transfers around the global banking world. Using his skills like a hacker to weave and loop, Brunecki made sure nobody could track his own electronic signature. But thanks to Robert Maxwell, Mossad had it. So then it goes on to explain that Rafi Eitan then tasked Robert Maxwell with studying Richard Brunecki, and understanding how he became the best money launderer in the world. And then it says Maxwell then began to use the same follow the money route the CIA operation had established. Eitan was now a financial ghost walking in Bernanke's footsteps. He told Maxwell he should adopt the same way of hiding his own profits, not only from Promise, but from any other venture he wished to keep from prying eyes. It was Robert Maxwell's first step into the criminal world of money laundering. By then, Maxwell was ready to move Promise into the Soviet Union. And then it goes on to explain that, Bulgaria was, one of these republics inside of the Soviet Union. That's where all the Soviet weapons were made. It's like the only thing they make in Bulgaria was weaponry. And Maxwell's daughter had married into a Bulgarian family, uses that contact to establish contacts in Bulgaria, becomes such good friends with the Bulgarians that, and nobody's allowed to go to the Soviet Union. Not only is he allowed to go to the Soviet Union, speaking of yachts, he would, this story right here, he commissioned a yacht for a family vacation, told the captain to go up the Black Sea, right up to Bulgaria, right up to a Navy base. The captain is like freaking out. He's like, we're about to die because the Soviet Navy descends on them. And then Robert Maxwell comes out and says, my name is Robert Maxwell. I'm here to see tell the president that I'm here. And then they roll out the red carpet for him. He would walk around Bulgaria with a shirt on that says King of Bulgaria with a paper crown on his head, joking. Like, that's how revered he was here. So he sells Promise to all of these weapons manufacturers. And then Mossad learns, okay, so these weapons manufacturers are selling weapons to every terrorist organization in the world, like the PLO, like everything. So now they know not only how people are laundering money, but they understand how these arms deals are happening around the world. They have leverage on everybody, and that's before you even get to them selling it to all the intelligence agencies. Because once you sell it to the intelligence agencies and the law enforcement agencies give you insight into the criminal investigations. The intelligence agencies give you insight into how they're operating and what they're looking into. This is how Mossad infiltrates every single government in the world, and not only government, but organized crime syndicate, terrorist organization, whatever. They now have, like, they're omniscient now. They have basically godlike knowledge of how everything is operating around the world. And they're able to leverage that to their advantage. Forget Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing is salacious and interesting, and probably is true. I mean, I think that to some extent there is something there with Epstein, but this is how you cultivate blackmail and take over the world. It's not through, honeypot, sex pot stories. So that's why I want to just lay that out. And now you have the whole thing coming to fruition with this Credit Suisse investigation. We are expecting a report in the Senate from Neil Barofsky sometime this year. And I want to point out to everybody that this whole adventure began in 2018 when Nicolas Maduro filed those lawsuits against the oil companies in both Miami and Switzerland. Because remember, that leads to that guy getting arrested in Miami. And then he turns around and says, yes, Trump administration, I will cooperate completely and tell you exactly how I laundered money for the oil companies. And all the money he was laundering was going into a Credit Suisse account. So yes, it's all connected. This is how you connect Maduro, Venezuela, Maxwell, Epstein, Israel, Mossad, CIA, the banking system. And I'm sure Iran probably ties into it too.
Yeah, I was just thinking, how does Iran tie into this? Or is the war over there an attempt to expose the OPEC operation as a whole?
Yeah. Well, consider that this whole, as I said, the whole adventure begins when Maduro files those lawsuits against the 42 oil executives. Right. Well, think about the big thing in Iran that everyone's talking about right now: oil, right? BP. All that oil comes out of Iran, so you got to think that somehow those investigations do tie into Iran.
Interesting. All right, before I completely hand it over, I do have a couple more domestic stories, and then I'll give it back to Ghost for geopolitics. Zero Hedge. California lawmakers introduce the Stop Nick Shirley Act. Speaking of corruption on a domestic scale rather than international scale, as Gordon's talking about there. After making waves in Minneapolis by revealing rampant daycare fraud run by Somali migrants, Nick Shirley travels to the Golden State only to find more fraud, including voting scams and medical care scams. The investigation apparently has led to at least 21 arrests associated with the medical fraud, just after Shirley published his report, though no official sources confirmed a direct connection. This brand of taxpayer theft is an ever-present problem within the blue states where Democrats and migrants seem to work hand in hand. But the real giveaway is the fact that Democrats, NGOs, and leftist activist groups respond with such hostility to any efforts to expose migrant fraud. Nick Shirley put out on X, quote, California is trying to pass a bill that would criminalize investigative journalism with misdemeanors, $10,000 fines, imprisonment, and content takedown. Under Assembly Bill 2624, government-funded entities like the Somali Leering daycare centers would be protected from being exposed if they operated inside California. Is the bill real? Yes, AB 2624 is an active, real piece of legislation titled the Privacy for Immigration Support Service Providers. It was introduced February 20th, 2026 by Assemblymember Mia Bonta, a Democrat, and it was amended on April 9th, 2026. As of April 13th, it has advanced through committee, read a second time and amended, and remains in progress in the Assembly. The bill extends an existing address confidentiality program modeled after protections for reproductive health care and gender-affirming care providers. So they want to conceal the immigration medical services, the same, businesses, not the consumers, not the patients, but the businesses themselves. They want to conceal them the same way they do with reproductive health care, abortions, and gender-affirming care, transgender for everyone. To, quote, designate immigration support service providers, their employers, volunteers, and household members. And here's where it gets interesting. Key provisions include prohibiting anyone from knowingly posting, displaying, disclosing, or distributing on the internet or social media the personal information or images of these individuals with the specific intent to incite violence, threaten harm, or enable a crime involving violence against them. It will ban soliciting, selling, or trading information with the same harmful content. Penalties include misdemeanors, fines of up to $10,000 per violation, imprisonment of up to 1 year, or both. And it shields the home addresses and public records and allows affected individuals to seek removal. So again, they're passing a law. This is essentially what they're doing. They're passing a law to try and prevent any information of the businesses, again, not the patients, but the businesses, public records, business records, business licenses, public funding going to these entities. They want to obfuscate that from the people under the threat of, well, when Nick Shirley exposes it or somebody comes along and exposes it like Nick Shirley, it will incite violence. And that is where they get away from the First Amendment, because as we know, a free press is completely and totally protected by the First Amendment. But they have these kind of little markers on the First Amendment, right? You can't yell fire in a theater, which is actually not true. That was overturned in the 80s. But you can't use your free speech to incite violence, threaten harm, certain things. So they throw that into the bill in order to make it constitutional, to get it passed. Then once it's passed, and I'm not saying it's passed yet or that it's even going to pass, but then once it passes, they'll take, journalism you do and say, well, Nick Shirley went to this place and exposed this, and that was an indirect, subtle threat to, a dog whistle to everybody to go after and rally. And look what happened as a result of this. All these people showed up and started protesting at these offices, and then they go after Nick Shirley. And they probably won't get a conviction out of him, but you know what they'll do? They'll bleed him dry in legal fees, defending himself. They'll intimidate him to the point where he doesn't do this anymore. And not just him, many others. This is how they stop and silence the quote unquote free press. Well, no, the actual free press, investigative journalism, while the quote unquote free press, the Mockingbird media, just ignores the shit out of this.
Yeah. This is incredible. This is the system of systems, right? What makes a system of systems is Burning Bright, a term that I heard Burning Bright coined. Maybe somebody else may have as well. But one system can be taken down, right? But when there's a system of systems, other systems can step in and protect the system being targeted, right? And that's what makes the whole ecosystem so effective and able to protect itself. And that's why going after one entity, and in the most literal sense, that means going after one person, right? Or going after one business, or going after one sector, like one tentacle of the octopus, is not going to work. It's like you have to go after the head. You have to go after the whole thing. And it probably has to be done in a coordinated manner where it's all happening simultaneously. Because otherwise, again, the other tentacles come along and protect the tentacle being cut off.
Yep. All right. Before we move on, let's go ahead and get a word from another sponsor here. And then we'll get into some more stories. All right, guys, they can cancel your accounts. They can freeze your cards. They can decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control. We've been talking about it for the last 20 minutes, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middlemen, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line that they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently. Yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. All right. Let's go ahead and jump into this story here quickly, Ghost. From CBS News, DOJ fires at least 4 prosecutors involved in FACE Act cases during the Biden administration. The termination occurred at about the same time that a report on the FACE Act and the Biden DOJ is being finalized. The FACE Act report is being drafted by the Justice Department's Weaponization Working Group, #Ed Martin, established in the first days of former Attorney General Pam Bondi's tenure. The firings mark the latest in a purge that started last year of the Justice Department employees, many of whom worked on criminal or civil cases opposed by the Trump administration or President Trump's allies. Remember what I was just talking about earlier, Ghost, about GART, the bureaucracy, and how an 8-year presidency can't root out the rot within the deep state, because these are people that have their tentacles so deep in it that it would take 8 years just to be able to find out how many of them there actually are. Yep. It says a Justice Department spokesperson said in a statement that the department, quote, has terminated the employment of personnel responsible for weaponizing the FACE Act who still remain in the department. Stacey Young, a former Civil Rights Division lawyer who founded and leads the nonprofit Justice Connection, said in a statement that, quote, Congress passed the FACE Act with bipartisan support more than 30 years ago. 30 years ago. What's 30 years ago? That's what, like 1996-ish?
Yep, 1996.
Who was president in 1996?
That would be Bill Clinton.
Yeah. We'll get back into that. And courts have consistently upheld the constitutionality of its provisions that ensure safe access to reproductive health services. Quote, firing DOJ attorneys for zealously enforcing the law is unconscionable and politicizes the department's enforcement actions and punishes dedicated civil servants for doing their jobs. I wonder if you could take that same exact statement right there and flip it on ICE, flip it on Trump's immigration policy. Firing DOJ, firing ICE agents for zealously enforcing the law is unconscionable. I'm just taking out 2 words in that whole thing. I'm replacing DOJ attorneys with ICE agents. For enforcing the law, it politicizes the department's enforcement actions and punishes dedicated civil servants for doing their jobs. It's amazing how that works. The NGOs. When Pam Bondi resigned and said, I can do more work from the outside, when the other gentleman that was also the J6er, when he resigned and said, I can do more from the outside, perhaps this is what they meant. This kind of stuff right here. Says the Justice Department has pursued criminal charges against abortion rights activists who were accused of trying to scare volunteers and workers at a crisis pregnancy clinic that counseled the alternatives to abortion. The total number of such cases were minimal compared to those targeting conservative pro-abortion Christians. So now go back, Ghost, to when the FACE Act came about. It was during William H. Clinton, Bill Clinton. Do you remember what Bill Clinton's famous quote was about abortion?
Not specifically.
Safe but rare.
Mm.
I think it was exactly that, safe but rare, right? We want abortion to be safe but rare.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at how government typically works, when you give them a little bit of power and they take that power, they put the protection of the FACE Act in there. They knew all along abortion wasn't safe but rare, that they wanted this widespread. They wanted this widespread, whether it's the culling of a population. Abortions obviously disproportionately affect Black Americans. Whether it's that, whether it's, just Satanism, whether it's selling their organs, whatever it might be, that was never their intention, safe but rare. They just needed to get that law across the finish line. And then once the law's across the finish line, much like the Patriot Act, they just expand on it. And then when the time comes, they enact it. And when you have people, 60-year-old, 70-year-old women blocking the front, when you have Mark Houck attacking an anti-abortion, or a pro-abortion rights, whatever, activist that starts slinging sexual slurs at his son and the FBI raids his home, but you don't have the same reciprocation on the other side of the aisle when anti-abortion, buildings are firebombed and everything else. Man, this has been too long coming, but perhaps again, when people say, when are we going to see the justice? You have to wait for everything to come about before, because if they would have fired them right off the rip, those attorneys would be engaged in lawfare right now. And instead, they're going to have this report coming out, and that's going to make the lawfare against the DOJ for firing them much more difficult. I'll land it there and give it to you.
That's interesting. Yeah. And what you're describing is slippery slope. You just were talking about going after individuals for inciting violence, right? Like going after who was it? Nick Shirley for inciting violence, right? That's the excuse that the sheriffs in Republican governments, like Republican municipal governments, gave when they went to somebody's house and said, you need to take this post down. This post is anti-Semitic. And while you may not be a violent person, somebody else who's a violent person might read your words and then be inspired to go do violence. And that is one of the most deceptive and evil and twisted lies that they tell you when they try to argue against free speech, because that's how they're going to take away your free speech. They're going to say your feelings. It's about feelings. And you have to look them in the eye and say, fuck your feelings.
Amen. Amen, brother. Let's go ahead and jump in. So we saw the President Trump post. You guys talked about it yesterday. He has since come out and said, I thought I was a doctor in that post. It just absolutely hilarious. The troll from President Trump on that. I personally, when I personally saw that, I was like, he's making more of like a reference to the apostles rather than Jesus. You don't see anything indicating that he's Jesus other than perhaps the white robes, right? And I know as well as anybody that all 12 apostles were given the gift of healing. And President Trump has said very many times that he's doing the work of God. Most of us believe that God saved him on that July 13th day for it was a July 15th, specifically for this purpose. So I don't have a problem with him putting out there and trolling a bunch of the people. And kind of one of the things we talked about at GART this week was drawing that line, kind of fracturing MAGA and figuring out who's on kind of which polar opposite side of the MAGA spectrum. And that's what that continued to do right there.
Yeah. I mean, I still am continuing to get messages from people who are like, I can't believe y'all had that take on Daily yesterday. Like clearly Trump was calling himself Jesus. It was very inappropriate and it's very upsetting. And like the best example I can point to is, you remember the Charlie Hebdo thing? Remember Charlie Hebdo in Paris years ago? Purportedly an Islamic terrorist went in and shot up a newspaper in Paris, France, because they published a political cartoon that showed Muhammad, right, which is prohibited in Islam. And I distinctly remember, this was like during Obama. I distinctly remember like all the Christians in America being like mocking Muslims and being like, that is so silly that you would get that upset over like an image. Like, why would you get so triggered over that? Like contain yourself, contain your feelings. My personal take on it in hindsight is that it was probably just a mercenary group was hired to go do this, and then they assigned like a narrative to it to scare people. However, those terrorists could be radicalized zealots. Who knows? But again, looking at it holistically, it's like you either allow yourself to get compromised emotionally by information, whether that's an image or words or whatever, or you guard yourself against that and understand it's just information. You should withhold belief. You should preserve your belief for God and your family, and not invest ourselves emotionally so deeply in this stuff that's coming out in the zeitgeist. And I think Trump is conditioning people to do that, because remember how triggered people got 10 years ago when he would make a joke?
Oh yeah.
It's like we have come a long way, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, but so when he made those jokes back then, Ghost, and this is the transition as we draw towards the potentially the end of the Trump presidency era. In the first term, those shots were taken at the left, and those shots fractured the left from the right even more so, right? Like you had the MAGA that was like, yeah, we're all in on this fake news and all that, and it called out the establishment left and the establishment broadly, not just the left, but they're the ones that kind of latched onto it more than anyone. Now the shots he's taking are actually fracturing MAGA, and this is something I think that this could potentially be the destruction and the beginning of the destruction of the two-party system. Very well could be. When Trump leaves now, the Republican Party is going to be in shambles, trying to figure out what the hell to do. And that's why I think that the post-Trump era panel is very important and needs to be hashed out, more than just a 1 hour panel. That's something that needs to be hashed out over and over again, because there is a divide right now in MAGA. There's a divide in the politics across the country, and Trump is enabling that. He is enabling that right now with memes like that, where half his base is like, you guys are taking this way too seriously, and the other half is like, oh my God, he's blasphemy.
Yeah. And those panels, like, I thought those panels were great. I thought they were very productive. I got great feedback from everybody in the room who thought they were productive. And I truly appreciate JB getting up there and like having that conversation with us. And by the way, for those who weren't there, the first thing I did on both panels when we were done is I stood up and I shook his hand and I gave him a hug. Like, so there is nothing but respect in the room, despite intense disagreement. And we walked away from it friends. Like, we're like totally cool. And JB knows that. However, there was a moment where I asked JB on stage, I said, would you, because, he was challenging me on the Iran thing. He's like, do you not think Trump knows what he's doing? And of course I think Trump knows what he's doing. That was never the allegation. But I asked him, I said, would you be okay, given what's happened in Venezuela with the exact same government being left in place, minus Maduro? Would you be okay if the Ayatollah and the IRGC, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm just saying, would you be okay with that being left in place in Iran? And then we become friends, and, they become a good ally. And he said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I said, even if Donald Trump said it, like you just said that we should be trusting him. He said, no, that thing's got to go. And I think, again, I'm not attacking JB. I think JB is speaking for millions of people who agree with him, including people in our audience. So that's why it's important to talk about this. But I think we should consider, I think Burning Bright in the past has called it accidentally voting for Trump. Like, people in 2016 accidentally voted for him. They pinched their nose, they say, and voted for Trump. And now they love him. And I think that's because everything has gone swimmingly for them because of their worldview, the way they see things. Everything has worked out the way they wanted it to work out, right? Trump has supported Israel, gone after the Muslims, gone after the terrorists. And that is exactly what a lot of people wanted to see happen for a long time. And now those ideas are being challenged. Those ideas are being scrutinized and being discussed. And I think everybody needs to stop and ask themselves, what is it that they actually believe in? And what is it that they actually, what are their principles? Because we are going to reach a point, I think, where, like, when we talk about the end won't be for everybody, where the outcome of some of these stories may not be what you were expecting at the very beginning based on Trump's rhetoric, right? Like, the outcome may not be to topple the Iranian government and get rid of the IRGC or the Ayatollah. The outcome may be just to make peace with them and go on living our life. But there are people who love Trump, who are all in on MAGA, who are never going to accept that, and they're going to hold that against Trump personally. And I would challenge those people to ask themselves why they have that belief, why that, like, where that hatred was cultivated from, and why do they hate this thing, this entity, whether it's Iran or Israel or whatever. Where does that come from? Where did, like, who instilled that in you? Because you might find, if you trace it back to its root, it was movies you saw 30 years ago, or Fox News, which launched in 1997, or the GOP.
I'm with you, man. I'm going to give it over to you. I got two quick stories. I want to play this clip here of three. I think all three are Cardinals on 60 Minutes, kind of taking the shots at President Trump over the post he put out about Pope Leo over the weekend. Check this out.
Conor McElroy, we are speaking in a church here.
Okay, we don't need to hear that on 1.5 speed.
In Washington, D.C., that serves a largely immigrant population. The pastor asked us not to share or publicize this parish name or location. What's he worried about?
He's worried for his people. They live under fear, and thus our mass count at the Spanish masses in our archdiocese went down 30%.
Okay, so incentive, your participation in mass is down 30%. The church, especially the Catholic Church, is still a business, folks. Still a business.
From the year before, 30%. That's a lot, and it's all fear.
Before he became Archbishop of Washington, Cardinal Robert McElroy served as the Bishop of San Diego, one of the busiest stretches of the southern border for illegal crossings.
I feel it got to a point where it was getting out of control.
Under Biden.
Under Biden, yes.
You believe in strong borders.
Yes.
So what's wrong then with the current policy?
This is a roundup of people throughout the country, people who have been living good, strong lives, been here a long time, raised their children here, many of their children born here, and are citizens. That's what our objection is.
Okay, we're going to land it there. So you believe in strong borders? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's been crazy the last 4 or 5 years. So you believe in the strong borders. You believe in keeping people out of there. But once the people do get through there, you don't believe in any way to hold them accountable and ensure. So the borders essentially are meaningless. If you don't believe in a way to deport people once they've crossed the border illegally and are in this country illegally, you don't in fact belong and believe in strong borders. You just believe that the shiny thing now that everybody else is getting behind, and you want to save face. So you say, yes, sure, I love a strong border, but don't deport everybody. So where do we draw the line on application of the law at that point? If a child is raped 20 years ago and it comes out, is there a statute of limitations on that? Do we, and here's the thing, the child that was raped, that the rapist may or may not, there's a high recidivism rate with that, but may or may not still be raping children. But that one rape 20 years ago is worth locking that person up. There should be no statute of limitations on that. The people that are over here that came over to this country 20 years ago are still breaking the law. They are still illegal in this country. If they went about getting illegal citizenship, visas, green cards, whatever, let them be. But if they're still here illegal after 20 years, they haven't done anything to try and correct that, then they need to go. They need to go. So you can't have that double standard. And that guy, she should have pushed back on that specific claim right there. You can't be for strong borders and also not be for accountability when you cross that border illegally.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and these are things that need to be completely hashed out and discussed for the reasons that you just described. But again, when we have these discussions, we need to make sure that we're arguing from a principled position, like, so we always come back to the same conclusion in terms of not a specific outcome on a specific issue, but we can cross-check that to our principles and say, well, here's why I think that. And therefore, it's consistent whether you're looking at a very complicated situation in Venezuela and then a very complicated situation in Iran, but both of which are entirely separate and different. And there's going to be a lot of subjectivity in how they unfold. But understanding what outcome is acceptable to you and why it is acceptable to you, not because you were indoctrinated to believe that, but because it's a principle that you hold as part of a core belief.
All right, last thing before I hand it over to Ghost. I know we've only got about half an hour. This one won't take very long at all, but this is probably one of the more hilarious examples of how retarded our politics are in the United States and how illegitimate our politics are. Check this out. And at first I'm like, okay, this is a hilarious joke, but this kid's got more sense than most people in DC.
He isn't even old enough to vote, but our next guest is making history by launching a run for Vermont governor at just 14 years old.
Oh, Vermont, a 14-year-old gubernatorial candidate will be on the ballot in November. Let's play this out. Let's play this out. Is that just not the epitome of how illegitimate and unserious our politics is in this country?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think the kid is on the ballot.
I hope he fucking wins. I hope he fucking wins. Let's go back to when we had monarchies, right? And like a 13-year-old would take over the throne, and you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but here I am. Let's do it, man. 14-year-old all the way.
It's like Elon said, the most interesting outcome is the most likely, right?
So check this out.
Dean Roy says that he wants to see real change for his generation, and he joins us now to explain how he's going to make it happen. Good morning, Dean. Thank you for joining us. Talk to us about your platform that you're running on.
Yeah, so the platform that I'm running on mainly is focusing on housing, energy, healthcare, and education. For housing, it's mainly revolving around deregulating in regards to Act 250 and increasing taxes on short-term rentals, which are a very prominent problem in Vermont. For energy, it's nuclear power. If we were to reopen a nuclear power plant, we would secure energy independence. And for education and healthcare, it's auditing those systems, which are very inefficient in Vermont, and making sure that we get them to be efficient once again, and make sure that they're at the standard where Vermonters can both afford them and can lower their tax bill.
I mean, dude, I half was expecting him to come out there and be like an extra 15 minutes during recess and free snacks in the snack machine. But I mean, those are some legit platform issues.
The kid can hang. Wow. I'm impressed. I got to say, yeah, I mean, okay. So this kid can actually hang. This kid can actually articulate a position. And isn't it funny that he can articulate himself like that, but like a grown adult politician, like would totally be befuddled by what he just said and like not be able to respond.
You know what? We need to get that man in office like right away. Because at 14, he is completely and totally protected from all sexual deviance blackmail. Yeah, because you can't blackmail him.
Interesting point.
You can't blackmail him. Because if you blackmail him with somebody that's legally allowable for him to have sexual relations, you can't film that because that's CSM. It's somebody older,
the reverse Uno card.
Yes, and if somebody's older, so there's the solution. Ghost is all of our elected officials need to be between 14 and 17.
a government of children.
It's no different than our government as it sits right now.
It probably would be more. It probably would be more effective than the government we have now. I think.
It probably would be because they still have a future that they're looking out for instead of these old shills that are trying to make as much money as they can. You know what? I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. 14 to 17-year-olds running politics in DC from here on out. They are invulnerable to sexual exploitation and blackmail because it's a crime either way. Let's do it. Let's do it. God bless that kid. Good head on his shoulders, and I'm sure we'll see him. If he doesn't win in November and they don't have a 14-year-old in Vermont, then, running that state, then I'm sure we're going to see more from him in the future.
Definitely.
All right. So, guys, if you have not done so, we just had a little fun segment there. If you have not done so yet, smash that thumbs up. Almost 4,500 people watching. So thank you guys all so much for being here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to bring us into the geopolitics with this story right here from CNN. Have you seen this headline? I don't think you guys covered this yesterday.
No. A weapon shipment. No, I haven't seen this specific one.
So CNN on the 11th, exclusive U.S. intelligence indicates China is preparing weapon shipment to Iran amid fragile ceasefire, sources say. And Who's the first name listed as a writer on here? Can you read that?
I can't.
It is the one and only Natasha
Natasha.
Bertrand.
Natasha
Bertrand, my favorite writer, the old Politico hack, the 51 Spies Who Lie. It is Russian disinformation. Yeah, that woman.
That's a Russian name, though, Natasha. Are we sure she doesn't have ties to the Kremlin?
I don't know. It says here, U.S. intelligence indicates China's preparing to deliver new air defense systems to Iran within the next few weeks, according to 3 people familiar with recent intelligence assessments. It would be a provocative move considering Beijing said it helped broker the fragile ceasefire agreement that paused the war between U.S. and Iran. Trump is also set to visit China early next month for talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping. 2 of the sources told CNN there are indications that Beijing is working to route the shipments through third countries to mask their true origin. The systems Beijing is preparing to transfer are shoulder-fired anti-air missiles known as MANPADS. What a tragic name. MANPADS.
That's a very, very unfortunate name.
It's an unfortunate name. It's an actual acronym in the military, but MANPADS. You got any MANPADS? Imagine going to the logistics. When we were in Afghanistan, my second deployment, we had to wear diapers, blast diapers. And it was so tragic. Like, hey, Marine, where's your diaper? Because we had to wear these like blast diapers. They were designed if we stepped on IED, they're supposed to protect our junk. Didn't work, very well. But yeah, that was always tragic. Hey, Marine, where's your diaper? Go get your diapers. And I'm like, oh, fuck, man, this is so humiliating. All right. So the MANPADS posed as an asymmetric threat to low-flying U.S. military aircraft. Trump said, quote, if China does that, China will have big problems, okay? When he was asked on Air Force One, I think, on his way to Florida. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington said, quote, China's never provided weapons to any party to the conflict. The information in question is untrue. As a responsible major country, China consistently fulfills its international obligations. We urge the U.S. side to refrain from making baseless allegations, maliciously drawing connections, and engaging in sensationalism. We hope that relevant parties will do more to help de-escalate tensions. Now, again, Ghost, this is, Natasha Bertrand. So take it with a grain of salt because she has no credibility in my book. But what sense would it make for China to try and continue this war? Zero sense. I'll give it over to you with that.
We do have a response from Xi Jinping.
Oh,
let me pull this up.
Is he talking about MANPADS?
Not specifically, it doesn't look like, but let's pull this up on screen. I'm just going to read the quote that's encapsulated here. It says there's a video though with subtitles. It says, we Chinese are a people who uphold justice and are not intimidated by threats of force. We have strong sense of pride. We have a strong sense of pride and confidence. We have never bullied or oppressed or subjugated people of any other country and never will. By the same token, we will never allow any foreign force to bully, oppress, or subjugate us. Anyone who would attempt to do so will find themselves on collision force with a great wall of steel forged by over 1.4 billion Chinese people. Now it has a tag and it says this is a false claim. This is from July 1st, 2021 during the CCP's 100th anniversary. That would make sense given all of this. I don't think he would assemble this massive parade just to give a response to Trump's tweet. So I think that probably is fake news. I apologize for that.
So that would be a response directly to the blockade. And that was one of the rumors we saw over the weekend was that China's saying we're bringing our ships through the American blockade no matter what. I don't think anybody out there believes that the U.S. would strike a Chinese ship. I mean, that's immediate World War III, right?
Yeah. And Trump is boys with Xi, and he's actually going to China, I think, in like a week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, next month, I think May. I think it was like May.
You're right. May 14th. They pushed it back you're right. They pushed it back to May 14th. It was originally, I think, the third week in April, and then they pushed it back to May 14th.
So real quick, while Ghost may or may not have just shared some fake news. I don't think it's fake news. I think that's probably legit. This is totally real. This was the response from the Iran embassy in South Africa. Yes.
I will never give you up. The Strait of Hormuz must be shut. Blockade. In my head, just blockade.
Okay, we can stop that.
I mean, dude, look, like let's pull this up. I put a bunch of I put a couple of
By the way, that was legit the Iranian embassy in South Africa that put that out.
Yes. I thought it was the one in it's the SA. Yeah. I thought it was Saudi Arabia, but you're right. It's South Africa. SA, South Africa. Okay. Here is one from India. This is Hyderabad, which is in India. And it says, you know what? Iran will block the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And then it shows like a red line where the U.S. blockade is going to be. And then they're like, we're gonna blockade the blockade. And then, I mean, this one was from over the weekend, from Sunday. The Iran embassy in Thailand. A wise man once said, quote unquote, open the strait or I will kofefe, end quote. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This is a real post from the government of Iran through its proxy. So Iran is fighting a mimetic war through its proxies. This is like the next evolution, I think, in warfare, and very similar to the dynamic that's described on the ground in the Middle East. I actually have one more that just came out. This one's pretty good. Where did that guy go? Maybe I lost him.
All right, while you're looking for that real quick, let's go ahead and hit another sponsor real quick. Here it is. And we figured this one out the right way. So I don't know how this works because it's a pre-recorded ad read. So we'll figure this out. Maybe. I've never done this before. Go. Ready. Go. Ready. Go.
This is from Rumble?
Yes. I don't know if it's working or not. I think it's working.
I don't see or hear anything.
I don't hear it either. I don't know.
Technical difficulties, I guess.
Okay, we're back.
That was really weird. Yeah, that was
the
really,
first
really
time
weird.
I've ever done that. That's the first time I've ever done that. So apologies for that.
So it was only running on Rumble, I guess. So it wasn't running in StreamYard. So you and I don't even know what the ad was for because you and I couldn't see it or hear it.
The free U.S. birthday guide. So
okay.
So Ghost, I'll hand it over to you. I know we've only got about 13 minutes, but we did get the Credit Suisse stuff early on. So
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to share this last one. This is from the Iranian embassy in Ghana. Breaking: Rich Starry, a Chinese oil tanker sanctioned for shipping Iranian oil flying the flag of Malawi, a country with no coastline, just sailed through America's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. The Navy, with its many quote-unquote big beautiful ships, issued repeated warnings. Reportedly, the tanker's captain upgraded to premium to skip the ads. Edit: we're being told the blockade only applies to countries the U.S. isn't afraid of. That list used to be long. It now fits on Trump's McDonald's receipt delivered by DoorDash. Okay, so look, I was told that, like the big thing that I've been told since I was 13, since 9/11, is that Muslims, like Islam, does not value free speech and therefore doesn't have a good sense of humor. Like they're too serious. They take themselves too seriously. We have learned through this war that they actually have a tremendous sense of humor, and they're actually some of the best shit posters on the internet. They're the only ones who I think are like posting things that are as funny as the stuff Trump's saying and Trump's doing. It's like Trump and Iran are up here and everyone else is like down here and trying to be funny on the internet. And we just have to kind of tip our hat to that effort. I want to go real quick because I see that we got a Rumble rant. Let's see if I have that Rumble rant still.
It just, while you're pulling that up, it's funny because we always got that humor from President Trump. We never had it on the other side. And now we have it on the other side, and it delegitimizes the entire concept of what we're being told in the Mockingbird media about the whole thing. Because you have both sides kind of making jokes of this, and we're like, hey, people are dying. And you're like, well, are they really? Are they? So,
yeah. And by the way, like, I'm fully open to the idea that there are missiles falling on Iran. But you know, it's just, yeah, it could be. It's like we should be withholding belief that of anything we're being told. All right, I can't see who this ranter is. It's the first rant we got, $5. It's because the like a little ad is blocking their name. It says, Ghost, I'd like your take on Indiana's governor. Maybe you have it. Ghost, I'd like your take on Indiana's governor giving $15 million of taxpayer dollars to Israel. It was announced yesterday. Says it's a quote unquote partnership. And I do have that story. I haven't looked into it, but I did pull it up. It says state unveils $60 million effort to link Indiana to Israeli tech companies, and they are calling it the Iron Nation Indiana Initiative, which totals more than $60 million. It looks like publicly Indiana, the government of Indiana, will put forth $15 million, and then they have already accrued private partners who are going to contribute more than $30 million. Unclear where the other $15 million is going to come from. It says, according to a press release from Governor Braun's office, the program aims to create a strategic bridge between Indiana and Israel by connecting Indiana's leading corporations, healthcare systems, universities, and communities with world-class Israeli technology companies. Through the initiative, Israeli companies could establish U.S. headquarters in Indiana, build commercial relationships with Indiana companies, and engage directly with the state's business, healthcare, research, and industrial ecosystem. Governor Mike Braun said the program will bring investment and innovation to Indiana. Quote unquote, I'll just read this quote and then we'll be finished. Iron Nation Indiana reflects the kind of partnership we want to pursue, one that combines public leadership, private capital, and real commercial opportunity to bring more investment, more innovation, and more long-term value to our state, Braun said. So it's interesting that, like, let's just start with like the obvious, you know, MAGA is supposed to be all about kind of like decoupling from like the globalists, like international, like foreign governments, foreign countries coming in and like buying up all of our stuff and investing in our, and yet like we keep seeing all these deals the Republicans are like Republican governors are doing with specifically the Israeli government. I would also remind you of like everything we just ran through with the Promise software and like the whole Robert Maxwell narrative with Credit Suisse. And that actually ties right in with this story.
Pegasus, isn't that one of their systems too, or Poseidon?
It's right here. Pegasus is a great segue.
Oh, hey, look at that. Look at that.
This is from Sunday. It says, this is the Times of Israel. CIA reportedly used Pegasus software for deception op during the rescue of an airman in Iran. Americans use Israeli founded NSO's controversial spyware to send fake messages to Tehran officials. IRGC operatives saying downed officer had already been found. UK Times reports. The CIA used Israeli-made Pegasus software to carry out a deception campaign in Iran amid the effort to retrieve the second of two downed U.S. airmen last week. The Times of London reported the spyware widely used by the CIA is mostly known as a means of hacking into devices in order to eavesdrop on communications and discreetly harvest data, but it also allows operators to send fake WhatsApp or Signal messages that appear to come from the user of the phone that was hacked. Wow. According to the Times report on Friday, the American spy agency used Pegasus to send messages to the Iranian leadership and Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps operatives saying that the downed U.S. airmen had been found, had already been found. Okay, so this is interesting because number one, I mean, it's like, as the governor of Indiana is like, yeah, we want Israeli tech companies to be totally integrated into our economy. We are getting a story that is saying, oh yeah, this, like, one of the most famous and notorious Israeli tech companies, the NSO group, has a software called Pegasus that allows them to discreetly harvest all your data. Which is,
and not only that, it's alleged that they just used it. Now, how much of that entire operation was even real? If they have that capability.
Yeah, well, that's like, I'll probably land it at the fake and gay potential. But before I get there, I just want to like address kind of like the more obvious connection here. So number one, or that was already number one. Number two, NSO Group has been sued by WhatsApp over the past couple of years. WhatsApp is accusing them of hacking into their encrypted data. Like they're like, how did you get our encryption? It's supposed to be unbreakable, and stealing users' data. And they're admitting right here that they're using WhatsApp through Pegasus. So somehow Pegasus is penetrating the WhatsApp app and sending messages according to their own claims. And what's interesting is when NSO Group was sued by WhatsApp. NSO Group, by the way, is like partially owned by the Israeli government, and it was founded by Mossad agents. The lawyer who defended them in court was Rod Rosenstein. So that's notable. And then where I'll land all of that is, yeah, I mean, they're telling you right now that deception and fakery and fraudulent reports are at least part of this at some layer. So I think you have to be willing to at least entertain the idea that the whole thing is just fake and like none of it was real and there wasn't even a down pilot. So again, I mean, maybe there's not even a war. Like who knows?
The day it happened, just like the war itself, like you said, that maybe there's not even a war. The day it happened, I was like, this makes no sense. You would not send in, and I know we have no man left behind, and everybody likes to love that statement, right? It's not true, guys. It is a Hollywood construct, no man left behind. That is a Hollywood construct in the U.S. military. Are we going to make every effort we possibly can to get them out? Yes, absolutely. Are we going to send in 2 C-130s full of tier 1 operators into a hostile territory with no force on the ground, no QRF, no nothing, and send them in there just to turn into another, Mogadishu? Probably not. And I knew that right away. I heard that story. I was like, this whole thing sounds fake as fuck.
Yes.
The whole thing sounds fake as fuck.
Yeah.
First the F-15s going in there. Like, why are we sending F-15s when we have stealth bombers and stealth fighters? Why are we sending in the F-15s to do this type? Now, granted, could be real. Again, it very well could be real. But it just reeked of like a narrative, a movie.
If I may defend the F-15 for a minute, I did ask General Quast in Cocoa Beach. I asked him to rank fighter jets in terms of their quality, and he said even now F-15 is number one. So
no, it's not number one. I would okay, General Quast.
Well, I mean, I asked him to disregard. I asked him to disregard the F-22. I said, okay. Take the F-22 away because only we have the F-22. Let's like evaluate planes that everybody has. And so he was only evaluating planes that are universally or somewhat universally available. F-15 was number one. Yeah,
I would still agree with him then, though. For all purposes, the F-15 with the F-22 out of the equation, the F-15 is number one. Best fighter would probably be the F-16. Best, air to ground would be the A-10, bar none. And people say the F-15, no way. A-10 all day.
He did include the F-35 in that list, though. So the F-35 was behind the F-15.
Up there.
Okay, so I agree with you. Like 5 planes going down in one day, like that seemed really, really like cartoonish. It was like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. And by the way, that entire like rescue story was an Owen Wilson movie from 2001 called Behind Enemy Lines. Like the whole thing. It was like script by script by script. It took place in what was that war? It was Kosovo or Croatia.
Oh, yeah. I think that the
Bosnia. It was Bosnia. He was yeah. So he went down in Bosnia. Owen Wilson, back before he became like just a complete like comedian, like comedic actor. When he was a serious actor, he played a pilot that was shot down in Bosnia and had to be rescued. So I think again, strange. Okay, so let's go before we get out of here. Let's try to hit one or two other things. So right now we are. I'll go right back to China real quick. So there was a meeting last week, I believe it was on Friday, between Xi Jinping and Qin Li Wun. I think I'm saying her name right. She was the representative from Taiwan. She went to China and met with Xi. And it appears at face value, they had a good meeting. They both said positive things about the meeting. She did kind of come out afterwards and said, Xi was very clear in front of her. He said, Taiwan is part of China. It has always been part of China. Like, let's just start there, like start right there. And then she said later in a post-meeting press conference that they were going to maintain their sovereignty. she kind of strikes me as like the Maria Corina Machado of Taiwan. I kind of, it's this pattern, man. It's like, I mean, young, I don't know how old she is, but she, she appears on the younger side in terms of world leaders. A young, good looking woman, right? Attractive woman who's well-spoken, who says, things that appeal to, majority of the audience. It's like you go to every single country and you find one of those people operating, and then you track down their origin story. And I haven't done that yet for her. And it always leads back to a US based NGO every single time, that is funded by USAID or National Endowment for Democracy or whatever. So there's that. Speaking of not speaking of elections, but just speaking of USAID, we have Orban, Viktor Orban. I think it's worth mentioning that he was defeated after 16 years in office. He was defeated in an election by a guy named Peter Magyar, and he conceded. He conceded the election. Interesting developments here. There's been suspicion of fraud, suspicion of election theft. Those allegations are flying around. I'll kind of let the dust settle before I get too deep in the weeds on that. But what's interesting is that I saw somebody in the chat or in the Badlands comment section at the Substack point this out. I said this immediately in our private chat when the story broke. Magyar is the ethnicity of the people of Hungary. The Magyars are the people who who wrote in, I think it was Attila the Hun. I think it's how Hungary got its name. They're the Magyars. And so I think it directly translates in Hungarian to Hungarian. So his name is Peter Hungarian. Seems a little cartoonish. There are some people there who have that name. It is I looked it up. It is a common surname. And then I've also seen analysis from people on Bannon's show, but there are a lot of neocons on Bannon's show. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. I think it was Ben Berkowand said that this guy might actually be center right. So he's kind of maybe a continuation of the populist agenda. We'll see. But the big story is that Viktor Orban is ostensibly out of office.
So me and Ash will probably talk about this more tomorrow on Daily, but Magyar has a crazy history. History.
Oh, I know. It's super sketch.
And one of the things that we've talked about on this show leading up to the elections was the censorship apparatus in Hungary, and it kicked up the Digital Services Act. And, it feels a lot like the Hunter Biden laptop of the 2020 election, where, the Hunter Biden laptop, was completely censored. You couldn't even send it in DMs on Twitter, or you'd get banned and the DM would not go through. And so I'm wondering if the same thing happened with this Magyar, and the people of Hungary were not told about this, and they were just told this is your center right alternative, right? That's what Joe Biden was portrayed to us as, right? He's a moderate Democrat. He's not the crazy far lefty that's gonna, he's been very down the middle on a lot of topics, right? A lot of subjects, and turns out that wasn't true at all, or whatever. His bureaucrats that surrounded him weren't. And so I wonder if that was the same thing. So we'll get into that more tomorrow. I do want to point one thing out, Ghost. I don't think I've heard you mention this, and I'm actually really shocked if maybe you didn't even know this. Have you seen this story? Netanyahu corruption trial delayed due to security and political reasons.
Yeah. This was, I think this was something that was supposed to develop while we were at GART. It was either while we were at GART or maybe when I was on vacation the week before. I was tracking it, but I didn't really get a chance to talk about it. I didn't get a chance to write about it either. But yeah, I mean, this is just more of the same. And this is Damocles' sword hanging over Netanyahu's head. He was like, look, I got a lot on my plate, man. I'm fighting Iran. I'm fighting the Hezbollah. I'm fighting everybody. Cut me a break here. And and the court, I think, is going along with it. And, you can bicamerally look at it. You could say they're going along with it because they're corrupt, or you could say they're going along with it because they don't want that to be used on appeal as the reason that he was convicted, right? So they want him to have a clean trial. But that thing's going to trial the minute he's out of office, and he knows that.
All right, guys, if you have not done so, again, 1.07 thousand thumbs up. Let's get more, a little over 4,200 watching. So let's jump into rants here. Grace and Grit 17. We read the one about Indiana before we went into this. Thank you so much for that. Thomas Times 76. I half expect to see Brian co-hosting with himself since it was Ghost and Zach yesterday. No way. No way. We told you guys it was going to be me and Ghost. We planned all this. All right. Ghost and Zach were incredible in filling in for me. Reberhart 29. It was good to see you. Back to the daily grind. Thanks, Brian and Gordon. You two grind some of the best daily. I don't know what that means, but I got you. It was great to chat with both you in Nashville. Likewise, it was very cool.
Yeah, Reberhart, I saw him throughout the weekend, so good to hear from you, man.
Yes,
great to meet you.
Huck Fillery, another Huck Buck for y'all. All this Swalwell ugliness has me wondering if he is the governor California deserves, like Harvey Dent. He does kind of look like Harvey Dent after the acid washed half his face off.
Yeah.
He could still get elected. It wouldn't take that many fake votes to put him over the top. Yeah. Thank you, Huck. Artsy Joan, I got to go paint, but I just wanted to say how happy I am you like the portrait of your very beautiful pups. Thank you for all of your hard work and the time it takes. We all appreciate you. God bless. Yes, once again, Artsy Joan made this incredible painting.
Great painting.
Beautiful pups, Tango and Johnny.
Looks like a photograph. A very, very talented Archie Joan.
I know. I think I'm going to reach out and get to commission her to do one and add cash into it. So we have the original two, then the trio, and then when those two are unfortunately gone away, we'll commission her to do one of Cash and the new pups. Thank you, Artsy Joan. Appreciate it. P.S. Farm Girl, enjoyed meeting you both. Thank you for the info and different perspectives.
Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely. Rand 132. I'm enjoying the Iranian shit posting. They are way better than the left. I hope we get a US/Iran collab post-war.
Yeah.
We got to come up with something. We got to come up with something like don't you want me, baby? I don't know. We could come up with something like that.
I mean, dude, peace through strength to me is like we want other countries to be able to project power, not because we want them to threaten us, but because we want them to be able to like watch their own neighborhood. And part of that power projection is being able to shitpost. Like if you can't shitpost, if you can't like bust balls the way that Trump bust balls, then you're not going to make it. Like you're not going to you're going to crumble under the pressure if you can't laugh at yourself a little bit. So
yeah. Sammy the Squirrel holding me accountable and fact checking me. Harvey Dent lost his face in a fire, not an acid attack. That is correct in the movie Dark Knight. I was thinking of on a whim, I was thinking of Jack Nicholson, the original Batman, with the original Michael Keaton Batman, where he lost his face in a vat of acid.
Dude, I cannot believe we didn't cover this, but I will cover it on my show this afternoon. Kim Jong-un put out a video where he said he wants to be the peacemaker. He's like, I want to be the peacemaker here. He's like, and I've never seen him like do something like this. He's sitting in like an armchair in like a library, and he's like, I want to be the peacemaker, and I'm willing to collaborate in joint military operations with South Korea to make it happen and make sure that we have peace throughout Asia and peace throughout the world. And I just want to say that Kim Jong-un is the hero that we need, but he's not the hero that we deserve.
It's absolutely hilarious to see, Kim Jong-un over the weekend, he puts out, I think it was Japan, put out the post that North Korea is testing ICBMs again. It's like, oh, Caleb had showed it to me, and it was like a picture of like flames and like a city on fire. And I was like, holy shit, did they just hit Japan? And then I look and I'm like, oh no, they're just testing missiles, and somebody, propagandized with this picture and sensationalized that. Then you see Kim Jong-un like, come to North Korea and vacation here. It's beautiful. And we want everybody to come here. It's so great. It's like, I forgot what he called it. And then you see him coming out and being like, we'll negotiate peace. Meanwhile, you have Europe, like Turkey's going to bomb Israel and Israel's going to bomb Spain. And like, where are we going to fall with all this? And Europe is pissed at the US for blockading the Strait of Hormuz, and like all of that shit is just like pure chaos. And then all the bad actors for the last however many years are the peacemakers in all of this. Putin, Pakistan, you got, it's just, this is so fucking awesome to watch, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, like talk about the most incredible character arc of the whole thing. Like I always say, I don't need these people to be good guys or bad guys. I need Kim Jong-un to be a good guy. Like the world needs Kim Jong-un to be like the hero who comes in at the 11th hour, just like he came in and saved Russia from Ukraine and Kursk. Like that's what we need, because that'll be the feel-good story that I think brings the whole world together, is Kim Jong-un just being the hero of it all. That'd be so funny.
Insane, guys. All right, we're 10 minutes over. As New K said, John is going to let us have it. Yes, he is. So smash that thumbs up. Ghost, what do you got coming up, brother?
This afternoon, I got Geopolitics with Ghost. No breaking history tomorrow. Matt is traveling, but I am going to be on Space Revolution tomorrow night with General Quas, 6 o'clock Eastern.
That'll be awesome. And we've got Badlands Book Club tonight as Ash and I join with Colonel Towner as we start to close out stolen elections, which means the interview will be coming up soon. I got to call and make that happen. They promised it. We'll see if they actually follow through with it. But all right, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Smash that thumbs up. Stay tuned. Daily Herald coming up here at 1 p.m. Eastern. You'll definitely want to check that show out. Stay tuned to Badlands for all your content. We're out.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.